Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 53 in the series Viewers Games. This one is from Wilson from Australia. At the end of the video I will show you the list of viewers games that are in the pipeline, so you can see if you're waiting for your game to be analyzed, at what position you are on that list, because I take the games in the order they were sent to me. But first let's look at Wilson's game. He says, "Hello Rick, my friend, I've started to watch some of your videos from both your Chess to Impress and Chess to Progress channels, and I just wanted to say that your content is innovative and always interesting. Keep up the good work and continue being one of the best chess personalities on YouTube. Even though I have recently started working full-time and have lost my chance to play a lot of chess, I still very much enjoy the game, and your channel helps me to stay in touch with the game. This game shows one of my more brilliant tactical combinations. Cheers from Australia, Wilson." Well, let's look at that game and that brilliant tactical combination. It was a game played online on chess.com, 10 minutes per player for the whole game, and Wilson was black and his opponent was Juroma. And his opponent played e4 on the first move. Wilson played the Caro-Kann, and a very rare second move from white, not a bad move, but bishop c4 is very rare. d2, d4 is the most common move. d5 from Wilson attacking the bishop. E takes d5, c takes, attacking the bishop again. Bishop gives a check, bishop interposes, and those bishops were swapped. Wilson took back with the knight. Knight f3, e6, castling from white, knight gf6 developing, d4, bishop d6, bishop g5, both players are developing their pieces, very good. Wilson decides to kick that bishop. It's going back, it's not taking on f6. That pin of the knight is quite handy for white, you never know what that could lead to, so white keeps that pin in the position. But Wilson decides to deal with the pin straight away and plays queen c7, taking the knight on f6 out of the pin. Not that there was an immediate problem with it, but it can be uncomfortable, and it's advisable, if possible, to unpin your pieces. c3, Wilson castled, and h3, and that is a bad move. It's a bad move because of white's next move. You may want to look for that move yourself. And Wilson found it after 30 seconds of thinking. It's good that he took some time here. h3 is a strange move, because he can now play g5. Yes, it's taking some protection away from the king, so you have to think about it. But this is a good move, and black gets something in return for weakening his king side somewhat. Here bishop g3 is the best move, and then black wins a pawn. Bishop takes, f takes, and queen takes. That's why the move h3 was a bad move. It just costs a pawn. And this is better for black. But Juroma decided against that. He did not want to lose a pawn and went for a piece sacrifice. After 35 seconds of thought, he played bishop takes g5. He had blitzed out all his moves so far, and I often see that weak players only start thinking when it's too late. They blitz out moves, and when they're in trouble, then they start to use time to figure out how to get out of trouble, but then often it is too late. This piece sacrifice is not good. Of course, Wilson accepted it, and yes, white gets 2 pawns for the piece, and of course the black king is wide open, so there's all sorts of attacking ideas, but white is not quick enough. He can bring his queen into the attack, but his queen side is still undeveloped, and it will take quite some time to organize his forces against an attack on the black king. Here black already has a winning position, and Wilson played it very well. He gave a check first, king h1, and played bishop f4, already threatening to remove the only attacking piece from white. Knight f3 back, king g7. Instead of being worried about his own king, Wilson is going to attack the white king with his pieces. All his pieces are nicely positioned and he has an extra piece, of course. Knight bd2 developing, rook h8 pointing at the white king. Knight back to g1, defending. The second rook comes into the game, and Wilson's idea is to deal with the exposed king by just moving it away from the open g-file to f8, and if needed it can go further to safety. Knight df3, not very impressive play from white, he's not really doing much. King f8 is planned, Wilson's play is much more pointed, there is an idea behind his moves. Queen a4, not sure what that queen is doing there. Yes, it's attacking the a7 pawn, Wilson just deals with it, a6. Queen b4 check, that's just a check. The bishop interposes. Queen b3, the queen had to play again, the bishop was attacking the queen. And knight e4 from Wilson. Queen c2 from white, the fourth queen move in a row, and the queen is not a lot better on c2 than it was 4 moves ago on d1, so white has lost a lot of time. Knight df6, knight e5, after 35 seconds, but it just costs a pawn. That knight is attacked twice by bishop and queen and only defended by the pawn. So here Wilson wins a pawn. Bishop takes, d takes, and queen takes. A pawn in the back, and white now only has one pawn for the piece. He played f4 after 1 second. White was probably irritated for blundering away that pawn. Here knight g4 would have been a nice move, because you cannot take the queen because of a checkmate with 2 knights. Very nice. But Wilson played another very good move. He played knight g3 check, winning even more material with this fork. His queen is hanging, but it is check, and king h2 is the only move, and knight takes f1 is check again, so white does not have time to take black's queen. White took back, and now Wilson saves his queen with queen e3. Very good move, good square for the queen. Rook f3, kicking the queen. Queen e4, offering a queen trade. Of course, white does not want to trade queens, because then the endgame is completely lost for him. He's a rook down. So white played queen b3, but that queen is not doing much there. And Wilson is not worried about losing the b7 pawn. He is going to attack black's king, white's king. Knight g4 check. That knight cannot be taken because of the pin. King h1, and a very nice move. Rook takes h3 check. And this is the sacrifice that Wilson talked about in his introduction. It's a very nice move and it wins if white takes the rook with his rook. Then it's checkmate in 2 moves. Knight f2 check. King h2 only move, and queen takes g2 is checkmate. If you take the rook with the pawn, then knight f2 check, king h2, and the quickest win here is the queen back to g6 with a checkmate threat on g2 and on g1, and the only thing white can do is give some spy checks with his queen, but when he runs out of checks, it is checkmate. In the game, white took with the knight, and that doesn't save him either. Queen e1 check, knight back, and knight f2 check, king h2, rook h8 check, and if you play here rook h3, then you get checkmated as follows. Knight g4 check, king h1, rook takes h3 check, the second rook sacrifices itself on h3. It's a nice variation, the same sacrifice by the same piece. you have to take, and then queen e4 check, knight f3, queen takes, king g1, queen f2 check, and checkmate on h2 or on f1. So all that after rook h8 check and then rook h3 interposing, but white played knight h3 and that led to a checkmate on the spot. Knight g4 was checkmate. The mating combination at the end was very nice indeed, Wilson, well played, but I can't help thinking that white shot himself in the foot with his piece sacrifice, and then after that he also played some very passive moves. He didn't have a plan. Black just mobilized his pieces and won a very nice game, and that rook takes h3 shot was indeed very beautiful. Well played, Wilson. And thanks for sharing this game with the Chess2 Progress community. 69 viewers games still in the pipeline. And I put them all here for you so you can see if you submitted a game where your position is on the list. I'm taking them in the order they were sent to me. So Zach there in the top left is the next up. Then Aditya, then Suraj, then Albert. And I will not read out all the names, but it will finish with Mark J at the end of the list. I do send all the viewers, when it's their turn, an email to ask if they have a more recent game, because the game they sent was sent quite a while ago. So if they have a more recent game they want to show, then they can send it to me. And if I don't get a reply, then I just take the game that was sent to me in the first place. I promised I would do a video on all the games that were sent to me, and I will keep my promise. But it's taking some time because many games were sent to me. This is the 53rd video and 69 more to go. Hope you enjoyed Wilson's game. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess2 Progress channel and please leave a comment. You also may want to check out my Chess2 Impress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess2 Progress. Thank you for watching.